Hello there, my name's Bob, and today we're going to be coding a very simple React portfolio with Tailwind CSS. As you can see on the left, here it is. It's a very simple, clean, modern portfolio with a couple of animations, a footer, contact links, project links, and a little bit about yourself. So to start off with this, we're going to go into the terminal and we're going to say bun create next app. We're going to call it portfolio. We are going to use TypeScript. We're not going to bother with ESLint. We are with Tailwind to style it. We're not going to have a source directory. We are going to use the app router. We're not going to use TurboPack, and we're not going to use custom aliases. Once that's all installed, we can open the project in your editor of choice. Here we are. And first things first, we can start the server up. CD into it first, and then we can start the server up using bun run dev. This will open up the server. And if we open it up in our browser, we should be able to see a live version of the site. So if we go into layout and we say, hi there, we should be able to see right at the bottom of the page, there is our text. First things first is we're going to introduce a different font. I like the font Railway, but you can use whatever font you like. The next font package has a lot of them in if you use the Google suffix at the end. You can use Inter, any of them really, you can use any of them. But I like the Railway one, so we'll set that. We will set the subset to Latin, as that's the only one we'll be needing. And then we can say railway dot class name. And then we will see that we have now got the Railway font. You can always tell with the Railway because W's are a little bit special as they always go through the cross. You can always see them going through. So that's how we know that it's working. The first thing we're going to do is create a header, but very quickly we can put these children into a main, and then we can set up the header there. Come below it and create the header function, returning a header element. For now, we won't have anything in, just as a proof of concept, we can call it. And now what we can do is we could put a container inside of it. That way it'll have nice padding that's consistent with the site throughout. And we can have an anchor tag. In fact, we will not use an anchor tag, we'll use a link tag from the next-link package here. And we can set the href to /. Now here where I've put portfolio, you can call that whatever you like, but I'm going to just call it portfolio. You could say your name, you could say welcome. We'll leave it as my portfolio for now. And in the class name, we're going to say font bold. That's just going to make it stand out a bit more. And we can say text large, just to make it a little bit bigger. And whilst we're here, we can say hover text primary. Now that's not going to do anything for the minute because we don't have the primary color set up. So if we go into our CSS file, we can get rid of all of this and we can get rid of these and we can add our primary color. And we're just going to use this one here that it recommends. Now, if we go into our Tailwind config file, we can change this one to our primary. Now, this means that whenever we hover, we'll get a lovely blue color there. And it means anywhere where we could use a color before, we can now use our primary color. As you can see, and it comes through. So once we saved it, you can see it there. Now, the header is going to have a white background. It's going to be sticky. So when it scrolls down, it will stay at the top. And the top 0 is just so it stays at the top. In Next, you have to have class name, not class. Bit annoying, but you end up getting used to it eventually. Next is in the CSS file, what we can do is we can say a layer base of the HTML background color, and it could be an off-white, something like that. But as we're in NextJS, we can just set it directly in the root layout file, like so. Background gray, and we'll go 100, and there you can see it changed. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to make this container class a little bit better. So at the moment, if we set a red 100, just so you can see it, it's not centered and there's no padding. The way we're going to fix this is with the Tailwind config. So we need to import a plugin from TailwindCSS /plugin. And here we can say plugin. Ooh, how did we do it? There we are. And then we will add components and theme. And then in add components, we can say dot container padding spacing .4. That way, we've now got padding on all sides. Now to center it, there is a built-in option in the theme where we extend, we can say container, and then we can say center true. And that way it'll always be centered. Even if it's smaller or even if it's bigger, it's always going to be centered. Next, we can work on getting the links done. So below our main link, we're going to add a nav. In the nav, we're going to add a UL. And in the UL, we're going to do links.map. We're going to leave that empty just for a second while we define our links. So we can say const links equal, create an array where the first item is the title and the second item will be the href property. And we'll create 3, one for an about, one for our projects, and one for our contact. Then we can say link.map link, and the second will be I for index. We need the index to key them. Now we can say li, where key is equal to I. We can set the text to link 0 for the first item in the array, which will be about, projects, and contact. And then we can end li. There we are. And as we can see, we have our links here. At the moment, they're very empty, but that's fine. We can do that in a second. Now we're going to add an anchor tag with the href of link1, an empty class name for now. Link0 is the text, and then we can close it. Now it's giving us an error under the key because it doesn't like the fact that we've used an index of an array as the key. So we're just going to change that to link0, and then we can get rid of the index, and now that should work. And as we can see, they are now hrefs with actual links. Whilst we're here, we can also get rid of this background red. Now to style the links. In the UL, we can call that flex. That will align them horizontally. And the tricky part is getting the animation for the links. So to do that, we're going to start in the anchor tag and we're going to say relative. This is so that the after tag, the pseudo element, can be relative to the link. So it's not relative to the entire page. Each link is contained in itself. We're going to say isolate. That's so we can put the background behind the text, so the text will show through. Then we're going to say after content empty, which just establishes a content. Every pseudo element has to have a content, even if it's empty. So we have to put that in there. Then we can say after absolute and after inset zero, after easy primary. Now this is going to cover up all of them, but if we add a gap here, you will see that there are 3 different elements. Now the text isn't showing because it's above on the Z chain at the minute. So the way we get rid of that is by saying after minus Z 10, and this will push it behind. And as you can see, they're now behind. Now there's not enough padding on there, they look very squished. So what we're going to do is we're going to say px2 and py1. This will just set a nice bit of padding on there. As you can see, it didn't move it away from the title, and that is because they're not defined as blocks. So we can fix this by saying block, but then we'd come to another issue. I thought they would end up on each other's lines, but because the parent is a flex, it isn't. If we took the parent away, then they'll end up on each line. So that's fine. We didn't come across an issue. Now what we can do is we can say after scale y 0 and hover the scale y 100. This will mean by default, the scale on the y-axis will be 0, which is hidden. And when we hover, it will go to 100. Now, it looks like it's just coming in and out because we don't have a transition on there. But if we say after transition transform, now there's an animation. Now, the way we get it to be different between in and out is by setting origin point. So initially, we want the origin to be the bottom. And then once it's in hover state, we want the origin to be the top. And this way, it will go down when it's going in and down when it's going out, like so. Now, the only problem with this is when the blue background is on, it looks very, very hard to see the text. So how can we fix this? Is by changing the text color on hover, by saying hover, text white, and now it'll change. You could leave it at that, but I would like a transition of the colors on the text so it fades in and out. And now we're done. The only problem is on a desktop, it still lays under there. So the way we can fix this is by saying on the container, medium flex. And this means on any screen bigger than 768 pixels, it will turn to flex, which will allow it to line up with itself. Now, there is a little bit of a y-axis issue where it's not aligned vertically, and we also want them to be spread apart, not together. So what we can do is say items center, to vertically align everything, and justify between, put everything either end of the container. The next part I always like to do is the footer. And for this, we can say function footer, return footer. And in the footer, we'll have a container. And in the container, we're going to have a p tag. And then we can say ampersand copy. And this, let's render it out so we can see what we're looking at. Oh, footer. Now this and copy is just the copyright symbol at the bottom there. So you can say at copyright mysite.com 2024. There you are. And that is a very, very, very simple footer. Next, what we can do is work on the page sections. So if I make this a little bit bigger like that, so you can see. Let's add an image first off. So in our portfolio folder, in the public, we can drag just an image of ourselves in. We could get rid of all of these as we won't be using them. And we just have this one here called me.jpg. Now, just to see what this is, let's add it, me.jpg. And there we can see there is a picture of me. We do not actually need this for the moment, so we can get rid of everything in the file and add a home function. Ooh, needs a bracket. There we go. Now we've got our lovely home function there. Now in the home function, we can have a class name of container, and that will center everything out nicely and have a bit of padding. And we can do space Y8. At the moment, you won't see any differences, but if I add 3 P's, you will see that they all get spaced out now. Now we're going to have 3 sections. We're going to have a about section. And we're going to call that card for the moment. Just like that. So it's a div with a class name of card and a heading 1 called about me. And then we can render that one here. And we can get rid of the other 2 sections for now. Now you can see you have the about me section, but the card is not doing anything at the moment. So this is also back in the Tailwind config file, where we can add another component called .card. And this one, we're going to have a padding of the same as the container padding, although you can't really tell at the minute. So what we're also going to do is add a background color of theme colors.white. And that will make it nice and white. And now you can tell that it's a card. And if we go back to the home page and re-render this about section a few more times, you can see that it's spaced out now. We may actually change this to 4 just to keep everything the same spacing. Back in the Tailwind, we need to style the about me heading. So we can do this by adding an add base. Now, if we go in here and we say H1, we can set the font size a bit bigger, just like that. We can set the font weight a bit bigger, just like that. And I'm going to say black. And then we can set a color, just like that. And there we are. Now, if we very quickly copy this about twice more and we rename the second one to projects and the third one to contact, and then replace them here, we have very quickly created 3 sections. For the About section, you would just have a heading, paragraph with some text in it. I'm just putting lorem in, but you can fill it with whatever you want. And you would also have an image that I've brought in just a minute ago, and you can bring whatever image in you want. You don't have to bring an image, but I would recommend it. I wish I had a good image of myself that I could put on there, but I don't. So I'm just using a Lego one, but you can use whatever image you want. And then set the source width to equal 100, height equal 100. As we don't want it very big, there we go. And an alt tag there. And we could space this one out a little bit just to give everything a bit of room, just like so. And that's the About Me section done. And for the projects, it's a bit of a similar situation. If you have an image of the website or the project or a screenshot you've done, that'd be perfect. If you don't, that's not a problem. We would create an array of projects, and each project would have a title, project title. It could have a description. It definitely needs a link. And it could have an image as well. But for this one, we're just going to do the project title and a link. And then what we can do, we can add our space y2 here as well. And then we can say projects.map project list item, which reminds me we need to wrap this in a list element. We can set the key on it to project 0. We need to wrap this one up just like that. There we are. And then we can set project 0. And we seem to have a mismatch bracket here. Whereabouts is it? Whereabouts am I missing? Do I need another one like that? There we go. We can set an anchor tag with the href of project 1. That way it'll link it out. And in it, we can have a B tag for bold. There we are. And then we can have hover, underline, and that way you can see the projects. Now, I don't like these. I don't think they're big enough or projected enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own link using a link function like that. And we're going to say props of href string text string, just like that. And the href is going to be href text, just like that. We could use deconstruction here to save us dot notating it. And we're going to set this to font bold text 2XL hover underline. And then here, instead of doing this, we could just say link href project 1 text project 0. And there we have our links. In the context section, it's going to be very, very similar. So we can copy this over, just like so, and we can rename it to links. And then you could say GitHub. You could say email, And you could have a phone number if you liked, 0555 763 843. You could have phone just like that. And then we're also going to copy the list over. And we just forgot the space Y2 on the card of the contact. And here where we say projects, we can change that to links. And here where we say project, we can rename that to link, like so. And there we are. We have our links for the contact. In the contact though, it may be wise just to add a target equal blank so it opens up in a new page instead of the same page. So rel equal no refer. There we go. And now we have a very simple portfolio. There's a couple things missing though. First of all, let's just shrink it so it can scroll. Now these buttons don't do anything at the minute. They are set up so the URL does change to contact and projects, but at the moment it's not doing anything. So we can change this by on each section setting an ID. So the ID will be about on the about section. On the project section, it will be projects. And then on the contact section, it will be contact. Now, if we click on them, you can see that it does in fact scroll, but there's no animation. We don't like that. So if we go back to the layout, what we can do is add a scroll smooth. This will mean that the scroll behavior is nice and smooth now. But you may notice that if we click on about, we don't get to see the title. So the way we fix this is by adding a scroll margin. So we say scroll MT for margin top, and let's try 14. Now, if we click about, we can just about see it. So we may need some more. Let's try 16, 18. 18 doesn't, oh, 18 is not 1, it is 20. There we go. Now we can just about see it. But the next problem, if we go to the desktop and now we click it, we get too much space. So on the desktop, we want the margin top to be 14. And there you can see it gets closer. And we just need to add this scroll margin top to all the sections. Just like so. There we are. So now it will have a margin top on all of the sections. In the layout, we can also change the metadata to be whatever you like. So you can say my portfolio. This is me. You can write whatever you want in there as well. There we are. And now you have it. A working portfolio made in React and Next using Tailwind to style it with contact links, project links, an about me section, header, and even metadata. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.